Hey guys, Licorice here from Golden Guardians. Today I'm going to be doing a champion guide for Fiora in the top lane. Just some tips and tricks on how to play her. So let's get started. I like Fiora a lot. She's been probably my favorite champion since she got reworked. I don't even know how long ago. Although the original Fiora was kind of fun too. I played a little bit of that back when I was in like gold. A couple things I like about her is that her lane phase is like really fun. Like there's a lot going on. You can pretty much always outplay people. Like your W has a lot of skill expression and like, I don't know, like when I was learning the champ, I always felt like I could have like I always could have done better. And that was a really nice like feeling for me. And I liked being able to improve on the champ constantly. You can play really aggressive and like you can kind of just like take over the game if you're really good at her. And also, I would say that like, especially in solo queue, you don't really have any unplayable matchups. Like there's a couple bad ones, but if you're better than your opponent, you'll still be able to win. And like, I like that. I like being able to just like pick a champion that isn't gonna just like hard lose to something else. Runes for Fiora, there's a couple different like things you can do. The most common one, especially in competitive, is that you just go Grasp, and then you go Demolish, second winter Bone Plating, depending on like poke versus all-in lane, and then usually Unflinching as well. Free Boots and Biscuits, just because it helps a little bit with your mana. I like going Attack Speed, Adaptive, and then Armor MR on Fiora. This is going to be like your most consistent rune page that is going to be the best for early game. And if you win early game, then you're going to snowball into late game anyways. So I like Grasp a lot. The other option is going to be to take Conqueror. You just go like Triumph, Alacrity, Last Stand, and then you can go Tenacity if you're not going to go Unflinching, but usually you just go Unflinching. There's like a few, like if you're really confident in the lane, you can go like Demolish, and then you can do something like this instead. Where you take Demolish, Second Wind, and then you take Tenacity. It's just gonna be weaker in lane. So like if you're confident in that, you can do it. It's just not, if you take Conqueror, you're not gonna be as strong early, and like you'll probably be better in team fights, but like especially in competitive, like when you're playing mainly like the Fiora Camille lane, if you take Grasp, you like win the lane. If you take Conqueror, it's like just like a total flip. So it like doesn't make a lot of sense to take in competitive, but like in solo queue, it's just gonna be whichever one feels better to you. Summoner spells, I think you just go flash TP. I tried going Ignite TP briefly, and it was okay. I just think that like if you're good and you can do like the flash autos or like the like Chinese Fiora one-shot combo kind of thing, then flash is just gonna feel a lot better. And it's just a lot more versatile. So I think generally you just take flash and TP. I like Royal Guard Fiora. I just don't like the other skins because I think they're just too visually noisy. You start Q in, I think, pretty much every scenario. The only scenario I can possibly think of that you would start something else is like if you are getting 5-man invaded and you want to like walk out of the bush and bait everyone's spells on you while you press W, like you can try it, but like other than that, like you just start Q in actually every scenario. Because like even if like you're like getting ganked level 1, their whole team's coming, you would just like Q over the wall too. Like it's your dash as well. So there's like pretty much no reason not to take it. So max ability order, you max Q, and then E and then W. Also, most of the time in lane, you will take W level 2, just because it like does a lot of damage and kind of like auto wins you every trade early game. There's a couple of scenarios where you would want to take E, but that's mainly just like when you're already winning really hard and you just want to kill them with like the slow and the auto reset. I mean, Q is your damage spell. It reduces the cooldown. It's like your main ability, so you definitely want to max that first. But increases damage, AD ratio, lowers the cooldown. It's like everything you need. And then W just like gives a little bit of damage and lowers the cooldown, and E also basically does that, but your E is just on a lower cooldown and it's more reliable that you're going to hit it. So most people max E second, as far as I know. Most lanes you're gonna start Doran's Blade, but in a few poke matchups like Jace or Kennen, Lucian, you might start Doran's Shield instead, just to try to like survive the early lane phase. But those are pretty much the two. Sometimes people will start Longsword 3. I don't love it, but I think it's totally fine if you like to start Longsword with 3 potions. I just think Doran's Blade feels really good on Fiora. There's actually a couple different mythics you can go on Fiora. Gore Drinker is gonna be your strongest 5v5 item, just because you can like dash in, get the big heal. And it's also gonna be pretty solid in lane for just like helping you clear the wave a little bit, because Fiora lacks wave clear, and that's like one of her weaknesses. So Gore Drinker is kind of like your team fight option, but Divine is gonna be another option. Mainly, you'll take this into tanks. A lot of players like to take it into Camille as well. And it's like a solid option that's like more for lane phase than for team fights. Like it's gonna be like better in the 1v1, worse in the team fights. And then your third option is gonna be Triforce. And Triforce is, I don't know, it's somewhere in the middle where it does more damage than Divine Sunderer, and it's probably gonna feel a bit better to play it. Like it feels really good to play Fiora with Triforce because it gives you a lot of move speed and like cooldown reduction, but it's not gonna be quite as good in lane as Divine is, and it's not gonna be as good in team fights as Gore Drinker is most of the time, but it is gonna be your highest damage build. So basically I would go Triforce if I'm mainly gonna be playing 1v1 and I'm playing against someone who's not building a lot of HP. Like I built it in competitive versus Tryndamere because he's just gonna go full damage. And it feels really good in those cases. But those are like kind of the 3 mythic options. Like Gore for team fight, Divine for the 1v1, and then Triforce for like the 1v1 sometimes against like squishy people. Boots, most of the time you are gonna go Merc Shreds or Tabbies, or not Tabbies, Plated Steel Gaps, sorry. Like often those are gonna be your 2 best options. You can go Ionian Boots of Lucidity. Those are like totally a decent option. But most of the time you're gonna want one of the other 2. Ionian Boots are like pretty greedy. They're mainly for lane, again, and they're gonna be like weaker in team fights. But I will buy them in some games when I just like don't have the gold. Like I based it 650 gold. Like I bought my Triforce, I have 650 gold left over. I might just buy Ionian Boots just because it's gonna be like pretty strong power spike to buy them. But most of the time, Merc Shreds or Steel Gaps are gonna be better. Ravenous Hydra is like a really standard Fiora item that like pretty much everyone builds. Helps you with your wave clear, helps you with lifesteal, side laning. So it's like really solid. You'll see it pretty much every game on Fiora. Something that I like to do in easy matchups is if I think I can get away with it early or even after my mythic item, I like to buy a tier because I think that building Manamune 3rd is like super strong, and like makes you like kind of one-shot people later. It's kind of situational that you can buy it. And most of the time you are gonna want the wave clear from Ravenous first, and they also buffed Ravenous, but Manamune is gonna be like highest damage, it's pretty cheap, and like the most AD of any item in the game as well. If I stack it, yeah, 83 AD, which is like the most of any item in the game. You do like a ton of damage once you buy it. So I like Manamune a lot in games when you can build it. If you didn't get a tier early, which is like totally okay and happens most games, after Ravenous, you go like something like Death's Dance or Maw, depending on like you usually go something like kind of defensive, like Death's Dance, Maw, or GA are all like pretty solid options. If you're playing full split push, you can get Hullbreaker. It's like totally solid. Like if you're just like not planning on grouping and you like build a build like this, and like Hullbreaker could be like a really solid, even like 2nd item or 3rd item. But like generally you're just looking for items that have AD. You can go Visage and Randuin's. Like I think those 2 are like decent as options for just like tank items if you are playing against like a full AP team or a full AD team. Those can be pretty solid, but most of the time, at least in higher elos especially, you're gonna want like a more aggressive item so that you can just like one-shot the enemy AD carry. Fiora is really aggressive early. For the most part, if you take grasp, you kind of just want to like get your grasp proc every time it's up. A lot of it's going to be about spacing your Q so that you're like out of range for them to auto attack you, but you still get the damage on them. Like that's like a huge part of the Fiora Camille lane is that you Q at the right distance where you get the Q, but they can't hit you back. But you pretty much just like go for every grasp proc and every vital you can in early lane phase with Q. And then at level 2, I took E, but often like if you're pushing and you know you're gonna win, like you can like QW forward and then just like go for like a pretty solid, like it's not usually like an all-in trade because you're like generally not gonna kill them, but like that's QW is a really solid trade. You're looking to play pretty aggressive in most lanes. You always want to take any vital you can get, unless you're gonna like die for it or something. Like, don't do that. But like for the most part, you just go for vitals and then Q in for procs and whatnot. Fiora's wave clear isn't very good, which means that like it's difficult for you to just like one-shot a wave and then like move somewhere. If you start losing, it can feel pretty painful because you're not going to be able to stop the waves from crashing on your tower and you might get dove a lot. So that is something to look out for. And like in early game, it's just like your split pushing isn't going to be that good until you get at least Tiamat, just because if you can't clear the wave that fast, if your opponent leaves and like starts a fight, then like you're probably not going to get that much by the time they get back unless you like already had a big wave. So yeah, not having wave clear like just like doesn't, it like opens you up to get punished a little bit more. So it's just something to be aware of. Yeah, so a lot of it depends on your build and also just like kind of how confident you are on the champion. In competitive, a lot of the time you kind of get forced to team fight. And her team fighting is totally fine, especially if you do build like Gore Drinker, then you're like actually a pretty solid team fighter. You're not gonna be frontline, but like team fighting is fine for the most part, but usually small skirmishes and 1v1s are like where Fiora shines and is like stronger. So you mainly want to look for those if they're available, but otherwise like team fighting is fine. If you do team fight, you want to be coming from like a flank angle because you just want to kill their carry in like pretty much every scenario. Sometimes if you can't get it, you can like use your ult on a tank and one-shot the tank, and that can be really good as well. But for the most part, you're kind of just trying to like get on their backline and one-shot them as best you can. None of your spells hit more than one person, so like you are only single target damage, so you're basically trying to single someone out and kill them as your strategy, and like that's what you're looking for. Yeah, so late game, generally you have a lot of pressure in the side lane. Fiora scales really well in the 1v1, so you're gonna beat most people in late game, especially if you build for them. Like if they're AD, you build Death Dance. If they're AP, you can build like Ma or something. But you really want to be like winning the split push and like force them to defend the tower, and then you can like move and go try to like find a good team fight angle, or you can just like even just dive the person you're playing against in your lane, just because you were really strong later. But yeah, it's like split push is ideal. If you're forced to team fight, you can, but just make sure you find a good angle, and you take towers really fast as well. So like if you're the person you're laning against, or like whoever's defending against you goes and does something else, you can get a lot while they're gone. Pretty much just as soon as you have Hydra and you can actually clear waves really fast, then your split pushing gets a lot scarier, because once you can one-shot the wave, you like get on the tower a lot faster. So like you save like 10 or 15 seconds, so it's like a big deal. Fiora combos, I mean in lane, you like Q auto and then use your E as an auto reset, and then use the other auto. QW is another one. And then you just kind of like run around and get as many vitals as possible. The really like fun Fiora combos are with your ult. So there's a couple versions of these. So actually, to explain the combos, I need to explain a mechanic first, which is that you can, I'll wait for this mark to die. So you start the auto here, and then you flash, and it gets the mark that you flash towards, actually. So like that. So the all-in combo is that you auto the first mark, and then you E to reset your auto, and on your E auto, you get the second mark, and then you like do a circle of them really fast. This is like the best way to one-shot someone. It's like kind of hard to explain. But yeah, you like auto and you can get all 4 marks really fast. And then the other version of it is you can start with like RW and then you do the same thing, but only on 3 marks. I think that one looks the coolest. RW first. Because you get the other 3 marks like instantly. So if you can do these combos, then like you kind of just like one-shot people and it's a lot of fun. And people think you're really good. Key points for Fiora: play aggressive in lane, go for marks when you can. QW is really strong, especially like level 2 early game. Later on, you're gonna have to be really careful how you use your W because it's going to give the opponent like a chance to all-in you. You're vulnerable when you don't have your W. But you can play pretty aggressive. You're actually pretty good at escaping ganks just because you have a lot of mobility with your Q. You can tower dive most people. I think like one of the biggest mistakes that people make on Fiora is to not try to tower dive. And if you're gonna like learn the champion to play it in ranked a lot, then I think practicing tower dives is like super important to do. Just like go try it because being able to end the game in side lane is like a really important skill for her. And then otherwise, if you like team fighting, feel free to go Gore Drinker and like go team fight and you'll be totally fine. Like basically push the side lane until you can't push anymore because like either you're gonna die or like are defending the tower or even if you lose. And then like you can go find an angle in the team fight and that's kind of just how you play. Hope you enjoyed my Fiora guide, tips and tricks. Hope you learned something. So if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and like thanks for watching. See ya.